You know what's better than having wrestlers at WrestleMania? Having literally anyone else at WrestleMania. Oh, sorry, that was the ad read from last year's WrestleMania. Who needs celebrities in our wrestling? Only wrestling matches with wrestlers and wrestling tights and wrestling boots and a wrestling ring this year. Of course, celebrity involvement has been ingrained into the very DNA of WrestleMania, dating all the way back to the inception of the Colossal Tussle. But that does not mean they've all been good. Many of the celebrity appearances to take place at WrestleMania have been little of note. Raven-Symoné says hi to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Jonathan Taylor Thomas is a timekeeper. Pamela Anderson and Jenny McCarthy as valets. Not much to remember them by, but some celebrity moments are so amazing that you can never forget about them. And well, unfortunately, the opposite is also true. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 best and 10 worst celebrity WrestleMania moments. But before we get on with this list, make sure of course that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so you don't miss a single one of the lists that we've got in the plethora of WrestleMania content coming your way this month. Honorable mention Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson squeezes his way onto this list because it would be impossible to talk about the greatest contributions celebrities have made to WrestleMania without mentioning Tyson's role in making WrestleMania 14 the success it was. But he misses because on the actual night, boy is he distracting, annoying, and otherwise all around bad. Number 10 worst, Kim Kardashian. Luke Owen still denies this one ever took place. Photographic evidence be damned, Luke Owen is unmoving. Regardless of Luke's stubbornness, Kim K did indeed host WrestleMania 24 if you can believe it. She did nothing of note besides getting yelled at by Mr. Kennedy and announced the attendance figures, and this wasn't even when she had become the mogul that she would go on to become. A few years later, this could have been a big deal. Here? Nah. Also, this was the first time I had ever heard of Kim Kardashian. I was 11. I was innocent. Number 10 best, Snooki. I don't want to hear it. Snooki is a highlight of WrestleMania 27. I wouldn't put being a highlight of one of the worst WrestleManias of all time in my obituary, but this is also the woman that described herself as a meatball on many occasions, so who knows where her priorities lie. No matter which way you slice it, no one, when this match was announced, thought that Snooki would do a round-off back handspring. She wasn't the worst on the show, and she wasn't close to being the worst celebrity on the show. That would be Number 9, Pee Wee Herman. I know there is a generation of folks with nostalgia for Pee Wee Herman, but good God almighty, is he ever the worst celebrity to grace the screen at WrestleMania 27. Thankfully limited to a backstage segment, Mr. Wee Herman riffs with The Rock in some of the most PG garbage comedy of the PG era. Thankfully it was short, but Piss Herman can piss off. Number 9 best, Pete Rose. Pete Rose should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it is a travesty that he is not. I don't care that he bet on games, he's one of the best players in the history of the game. Okay, American sports with Tempest is done. As for WrestleMania, Rose is still one of the best recurring bits of the Attitude Era, popping up at WrestleMania every year to f with and get thwarted by Kane. WrestleMania 14 is the best among them if you want to get granular and hold me to one moment, but Rose's run-ins at WrestleManias 15 and 2000 were also Hall of Fame worthy. Number 8 worst, Maria Menounos. This one feels a bit mean. Maria Menounos is a massive wrestling fan. She recites the Hard Times promo to Dusty Rhodes at the Hall of Fame, she wears homemade Bob Backlund shirts at pay-per-views, and she seems like a lovely woman. Her WrestleMania 28 tag match, however, is not f***ing good. She breaks her rib during the match, she gets Eve's spray tan on the seat of her white pants, making it look like she'd shit herself, and even its best moments are still in a 5-minute match during the worst era of WWE women's wrestling this side of the millennium. Number 8 best, Lawrence Taylor. While not the best in-ring performance of a celebrity on this list by any means, I truly think Lawrence Taylor should be commended for his performance in the main event of WrestleMania 11. On one hand, you have Bam Bam Bigelow pulling off the carry job of a lifetime, but on the other, LT should get credit for being an incredible athlete, capable of holding his own in the biggest match of the year. WrestleMania 11 isn't a good WrestleMania by any means, but the main event wasn't too bad. Number 7 worst, Akibono. WrestleMania, baby, woo! When people talk about Big Show's horrible WrestleMania resume, they're talking about shit like this. Sorry, Big Show, but what was the purpose of this? Why did Big Show have a promoted 1-minute sumo match with Akibono? They spent time on TV building this up. For why? I just don't understand. Humiliate your own star in a shit match with Big Show's giant dimply ass pointed right at the camera. Appalling. Number 7 best, Logan Paul. While Logan Paul added fairly little to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' grudge match at WrestleMania 37, he was the featured performer just a year later at WrestleMania 38. It feels like a disservice to Logan to put him this low on the list, but what can I say? There have been some great Mania moments. We did not yet know just how good Logan Paul was going to be at this, but what an introduction we got when he beat the Mysterios alongside The Miz. It really is annoying that this guy is so good at this, isn't it? Number 6 worst, Michael Shea and Colin Jost. It is appropriate, I suppose, considering how not funny Saturday Night Live has become, that the WrestleMania appearances of these two SNL dudes would be the least funny thing WWE did in 2019, and that is f***ing saying something. These two walk out with all the charisma of your nan's plastic-covered sofa, hide under the ring, then try to turn the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal into a comedy angle, getting Braun Strowman to talk to their therapist before getting chucked out. No one cares about this Battle Royal, but man, the Hardys were there, Luke Harper, Andrade, Ali, some players. Nah, give the big spot to the unfunny comedians. Number 6 best, Ronda Rousey. I'm not going to count Ronda's wrestling career on this list as she was signed by WWE at the time, but her initial appearance at WrestleMania 31, that's fair game. Was this segment too long? Yeah, probably. You tell Triple H to hurry it up at WrestleMania and see how effective that is. But The Rock enlisting Ronda Rousey, at the time, the undefeated biggest draw in all of combat sports, to fight Triple H and Stephanie McMahon was electric, complete with a rare bit of perfect camera work from WWE as The Rock slowly revealed his new ally. Of course, this was before Ronda Rousey was a bit, well, you know, bad. But speaking of bad, number 5 worst, Gronk. Rob Gronkowski is the most talented tight end in NFL history. It is known. That does not, however, translate to pro wrestling. A simple run-in marred by a security guard not knowing who Gronk was at the WrestleMania 33 pre-show? Totally fine, totally harmless. Gronk's endless escapades and incessant obnoxious dancing at WrestleMania 36? Not fine, not harmless. Winning the 24/7 championship to launch a wrestling career that never got off the ground because wrestling is hard? A total waste of time. Number 5 best, Bad Bunny. Who? No, seriously, that will never be funny. See this enormous stadium packed to the rafters for a Bad Bunny concert? Maybe this means wrestling fans shouldn't be the barometers for everyone's cultural significance. Anyway, Bad Bunny blew everyone away at WrestleMania 37. Sure, his Canadian Destroyer was really just him holding on for dear life while John Morrison did a backflip, but his timing, poise, and charisma outmatch a lot of people who have done this way longer. And then he rode off on a giant truck, and The Miz wouldn't stop talking about him for months. Number 4 worst, Mickey Rourke. This story is so funny. So Mickey Rourke was in a very good, very depressing movie called The Wrestler. He was going to wrestle Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 25, but announced that on the red carpet way too early, causing his PR team to panic because being involved with the lowbrow nonsense of WWE would hurt his chances of winning the Oscar, and had him pull out of the match. Then Jericho did an in-character interview on Larry King, convincing Rourke there was heat, so when Rourke showed up at WrestleMania, he brought Frank Shamrock as backup in case things got ugly. Rourke did a horrible post-match run-in following Jericho's win over the old folks home and threw an awful punch. Rourke and Jericho blew off all the heat backstage when Jericho revealed he was not, in fact, shooting on Rourke in the interview, but imagine the match they would have had. Number 4 best, Jackass. If it were Luke's list, this would be at number 1. As it stands, it probably should still be number 1, but unfortunately there are a few that beat it out through sheer historical significance. WrestleMania 38 was the celebrity match mania, and people were not exactly down with that idea going in, but then they were gifted with the wrestling masterpiece that was Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. What is there to say about this match? There's a giant hand, a giant mouse trap, a wee man hitting a giant slam. It's a perfect match. Where you can find Omega Okada 4 as the perfect wrestling match, this right here is a perfect comedy match. Number 3 worst, Machine Gun Kelly. We've tried to exclude musical performances here today. That's a topic for another day, but this one transcends music. After all the effort WWE made to make John Cena appear on the same tier as The Rock in the lead up to WrestleMania 28, this was the performance they gave for Cena's entrance. The performance itself was whatever, it is Machine Gun Kelly after all, it's the WrestleMania 28 theme, who cares? But it was the entire hype man promo MGK gave, calling The Rock one of the biggest egos in the business and saying he will fall to one of the biggest underdogs. John Cena, an underdog, in 2012. There's no chance Cena wasn't getting booed walking into The Rock's home territory of Miami, but this performance guaranteed it. Number 3 best, Floyd Mayweather. For many people, the measuring stick for celebrity wrestling matches is Floyd Mayweather's boxer versus wrestler match with The Big Show. WrestleMania, baby, woo! Whereas the Akibono match was a complete and utter waste of time, this match at WrestleMania 24 was one of the biggest highlights of the show. Big Show ends up a babyface in spite of WWE somehow thinking that Floyd, one of the biggest natural heels in all of show business, was going to be cheered in this match. Floyd bumps for Big Show, sells incredibly well, carries himself like a star, and finally knocks Big Show out with brass knucks after a very well-paced, filled with smoke and mirrors match. And also, look, it's Michael Tarver from the Nexus. Number 2 worst, Butterbean. Some of the entries on this list could be classified as a waste of time. Akibono says hello, but at the very least, it is merely a waste of a segment and perhaps the time it took to build the match. Butterbean's boxing match at WrestleMania 15 is not only a waste of time on an all-time wretched WrestleMania, but it also serves as the culmination for one of the biggest wastes of time in WWE history with the Brawl for All. Vince Russo's brain-dead idea to have the fake wrestlers do real fights to prove that JBL wasn't tough. It is one of the worst ideas in WWE, climaxing with a worthless boxing match that killed Bart Gunn dead. Shout out to Butterbean, wasn't his fault. Number 2 best, Donald Trump. Ugh. The words best and Donald Trump mesh together like caviar and horse shit, but unfortunately, WrestleMania 23 was very successful. Assholes, having a successful show. The interest in the hair versus hair match between Trump and Vince McMahon, with Bobby Lashley and Umaga playing the role of the action figures the two billionaires were smashing together, was through the roof, resulting in the biggest buy rate in WWE history to that point. It was a hell of an angle, a hell of a payoff, and a hell of an awful stunner. The absolute state of that, dear God, had to end on a negative note because, you know, Trump. Number 1 worst, Mr. T. Mr. T was instrumental in the success of WrestleMania 1, but when the time came for the sequel a year later, boy did that success not translate. Of course, 1 was a tag team match with 3 of the industry's biggest stars in the main event of the most important wrestling show in history, and then there's this. An honest-to-God, -5-star worked boxing match with Roddy Piper. This is appallingly bad. Anytime wrestlers try to do a worked fight, whether it be boxing or MMA or whatever, it never goes well. And this one is not short, it is not entertaining, and it ends with a stupid f***ing DQ when Piper just gets bored and body slams T. Not enough people name WrestleMania 2 as the worst WrestleMania ever, but I assure you, anyone unlucky enough to be in the New York third of this godforsaken show could tell you horror stories about how bad this show and this match were. But thankfully for Mr. T, he also had number 1 best, Mr. T. The success of WrestleMania 1 to fall back on. WrestleMania 1 is the most important wrestling show ever, and there could be a whole list filled with just the celebrity appearances from that show. Cyndi Lauper, Liberace, Muhammad Ali, and Billy Martin, prior to his 4th of 5 stints as New York Yankees manager, all brought in more eyes to the show. But Mr. T's involvement in the WrestleMania 1 main event was the big one. Hulk Hogan, the face of wrestling, teaming up with Mr. T, an actual mainstream megastar, is a level of celebrity involvement that has not been achieved with this level of success since. And the match itself is fine. Considering this is 1985, this could be way worse. Imagine if we lived in the alternate timeline where Mr. T actually did pull out of this match because he thought the others were gonna shoot on him, which nearly happened. Would we have WrestleMania as we know it today? Maybe not. And I pity the timeline that doesn't have WrestleMania. And that's our list. Make sure, of course, that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so you don't miss another fun list just like it, and click the link above so you can see Luke Owen's 10-ish favorite wrestlers.
I'm going to go through this list of my favorite wrestlers in autobiographical order because, really, it was the only way I could think to rank them. And while this list is called my 10 favorite wrestlers of all time, it's actually more like 20, sorry Tempest,